5 minutes after, I get a call, John, hey boss, the kitchen is on fire. Like, I can't breathe. My heart is racing, feels like it's coming out of my chest. And my landlord, Steve, he said, well, hey man, you can get a fresh start. Insurance will take care of you. And I'm like, I'm fucked, Steve. Steve, I don't have insurance. And he's like, oh, you're fucked. For about 2 months there, I got into depression, drinking heavily. My restaurant burned down. I lost hope. I thought, all these dreams that I've had all my life, these are just, crazy stories in fantasy world. This is real life. I think everybody has a moment in their lives where they get to that point where it's like, it doesn't seem like life is going to ever turn around, but it's up to you if you want to keep going or if you want to stop there. One day I opened my laptop and I said, you're supposed to make me money, show me how. And I just went for it, man. And first product, started making money. Second product, started making money. I was like, shit, this is something, And this year so far, I've done a little over 12 million.
Welcome to the Ravi Abuvala Show, where we show you how you can build a business that produces cash without you so you can live the life you deserve.
All right, Bashar. So first question, I ask everybody the exact same thing. I get a bunch of different answers, but the question is, what was one of the simplest decisions you made in your business that made all other decisions easier?
Focus.
Focus. What do you mean by that?
Focus on one thing, and just literally one thing and one thing only. Keith Carnevale was a man that told me that introduced the concept of KISS, keep it simple, stupid, into my life in 2013, 2014. I used to run a restaurant, and there was anything and everything in that restaurant. I mean, you would walk in and it's like, what is this place again? And he said, dude, you need to keep it KISS. I was like, what is that? He said, you need to keep it simple, stupid. He was calling me stupid. And then when I started, when that restaurant burned to the ground, literally, when I got into Amazon and got online and started coaching, I wanted to do everything. And then it just wasn't catching up. And I was like, what's going on? And then I remembered Keith's, saying, keep it simple, stupid, and focus. And once I did that, just everything transformed for me.
The focus, when you got in the online world, you first said the restaurant, then you said in the online world, was it that you were trying like e-commerce, drop shipping, coaching done for you? Or was it like, multiple different offers? Where were you unfocused when you first started the business?
So it wasn't that part, because I think if you don't know what you're trying to do and you just start, I think you need to start different things until you find your thing. And so when I first went online, I had never done anything online. I had a Facebook page that I literally posted on like once every 6 months. But once I did go online, I needed to try everything until Amazon got in. But then after, when it came to like trying to do other things, let's say, Amazon does over 53% of all online sales happen on Amazon. And I wanted to do a Shopify store, and I also wanted to run ads to my store, and I also wanted to do this other thing and this thing, And then when I wanted to do consulting, I looked online, and Gary Vee was the loudest. And he said that you need to post on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and start a podcast and do this thing and do that thing. And I was like, all right, 65 times posting a day it is, And then I was like, there's so much output going out and not as much input. And that's when I realized that I needed to really just find a thing that I enjoy most and then just stick to it and then keep scaling that thing as vertical as possible.
Yeah, I remember when we had dinner a few months ago, and you were telling me how the business was going. And I was like, and you told me where you wanted to go. And I was like, so what's the plan to get there? And you're like, oh, just more of the same. You know, it was like just so simple, and I'm excited to get into it. So let's dive into. So I've had the absolute pleasure, Bashar, of having you at my house with your lovely wife as well. One of the best nights we've eaten dinner here. I really appreciate your presence there, and I learned quite a bit from talking with you. But probably one of my favorite conversations we had that night, and arguably one of the favorite like origination stories, was kind of how you got started. Not a lot of people were restaurant owners, and like how that ended and how your journey started, running an 8-figure online business. So if you could tell people that are listening right now that don't necessarily know who you are, before we get into obviously the business success online, what were you doing previously to the online world? How did you get set up here?
So I've always worked in restaurants and operated restaurants. I migrated to the US in 2006. I was 16 years old, and my first job was at McDonald's. I lived in Detroit for a year, And then once we moved to California in 2007, I also worked at McDonald's. And then after I worked at a Greek restaurant for 3 years. So for 5 years, 5.5 years, all I did was restaurants. And then the first business my family and I started in America was a pizzeria. So I was also in a restaurant. And then a year and a half later, I decided that I wanted, I was 22 at the time, 23. And I was like, you know what? This is awesome. I can party. I can have a good time and run a business all at the same place. Like, it doesn't get any better than this. And I had only done restaurants prior to that. And so I was like, all right, this is probably, like, my thought was I'm probably going to stay in the hospitality industry.
Sure.
And, like specifically restaurants and bars and that kind of stuff. And so that's why I got into restaurants. And, it was a nice place. The potential was there. The plan in my head, the vision in my head was, until now, I think was incredible, but the execution sucked, and this has a lot to do with, we can go in there if you want, but it's got a lot to do with big ego, no experience, no one could tell me what to do. I knew it all, and so it wasn't just the lack of experience, but the unwillingness to learn.
And how old were you at that time?
23.
And were you literally physically running the day-to-day? Would your parents own the restaurant?
So the first one, yes, it was a family thing.
Got it.
Was myself, my brother, and it was my, at the time, 60-something-year-old mom and 70-something-year-old dad. So it was 4 of us running it, and my brother's friend also came to help us, who was living with us at the time. And then when I got my restaurant, it was just my thing. And so I was the owner, operator, but, I was working 120 hours a week for 3 years. I was the first guy in, last guy out, and, had 65 different hats. I was the manager in the kitchen and the bar and here and there. And the way I even got into it, I had been watching Bar Rescue by John Taffer for 6 months, and I thought I was an expert at running restaurants. And I was like, I got this, And so I would watch, this is what he did. I'm going to go and I'm going to do it,
That's so funny because when I tell people about the story of me almost becoming a lawyer, all of my research on becoming a lawyer was just from watching the TV show Suits and Law and Order. That was like the only things, like the TV show, I thought that was it, and I think I was in for a rude awakening. You touched on briefly like a little bit of your pride and ego and unwillingness to learn. So you create this your own restaurant, and this is not your family's anymore. What did you feel? My dad came from India originally, and he moved here when he was 18 with nothing in his pocket, created an amazing business. And so we've talked about it before, and I know that he had something to prove to his family back home, like himself, his family here. And obviously I know that you immigrated as well. So was that a part of it? Was it just like, oh, here's my parents' business, I'm going to go out on my own and prove them I'm better? Was it just because you were young and a guy? Like where was kind of this ego coming in, and how was it hindering the growth of yourself in the business?
My dad was a very successful entrepreneur in Iraq. He owned the second largest factory of clothing in the 70s and 80s and early 90s.
Oh, wow.
But after the Gulf War of 91, the economy just collapsed. And the US dollar used to be, well, actually, 1 Iraqi dinar used to equal $3 US. Literally overnight, it went to $1 to equal 1,200 dinars.
Wasn't there like some kind of dinar, money thing? I remember at one point I got heard of it. Yeah.
And so my dad went from worthing like 30, 40, $50 million in like 1989 or something like that to literally nothing overnight.
Wow.
And so him coming up, he was very confident always. He was the third oldest of 9. He put all of his, kid brothers and sisters through college, although he had 0 college degree. He was just always good at what he did. And he was very passionate, and he had an amazing work ethic, which is what I really what I admire about him. But he also had a huge ego. And it wasn't just him, it was his entire family. Like my uncles, my aunts, they all have big egos, And I think it was just the thing that ran in the family. And so when I saw when I would envision my dad, I would see, he was like a mover, he was a shaker, and I wanted to be like him. I wanted to become powerful, And then so when I went into my restaurant business, I carried all that with me. And he used to literally tell me, he said, look, there's a fine line between you and your employees. They can never become your friends. If you guys ever go out for a beer, you can never tell them what to do anymore. They're going to become your friends. And so for me, it was a battle, because it's like, dude, I'm like 23. I want to hang out with these guys. I want to go out with these guys, But it was my dad always in the back of my mind. And he would see me talking to them and he would be like, stop talking to your employees.
Do you still think that's the case? Do you still think?
Oh, today?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. That was just put away after my restaurant burned down, and after the day of my restaurant burning down, I had an employee that I had fired a few months prior. He texted me. It was a pizzeria as well. He texted me. He's like, I bet that pizza is pretty well done. Haha, asshole. Literally 2 hours after my restaurant had burned down.
That's too good. That's actually, my dad went through a similar experience to your dad as well. I won't say that it's nearly the same as what you went through, but something similar where built a lot of wealth and then unfortunately lost it. How was, just because I'm kind of curious, how did that affect your financial security today? Like when you saw that, did that, and I don't want to veer too off topic, but I just want to ask, even for my own personal curiosity, like for me, when I saw that happen, it made me I'm obviously risk prone because I built the business and but at the same time, I'm always like, all right, I need this amount of money just in case, like under my mattress, in case all this shit hits. Did that happen to you as well when you saw that?
It's funny because I started working with a performance coach not too long ago, and then every quarter we'll take like 2 days where we do one-on-one immersion where it's just no phones, nothing, just me and her. And literally half of our conversation last time, which was about 3 weeks ago, was about, am I a little bitch when it comes to money? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, we need to talk about this money thing. She's like, why? I'm like, so I've got, and this, I think it goes back to focus. I have 0 investments. I don't own anything. I have a bunch of cash in the bank, and I've got a very profitable business, a multi-8-figure-a-year business. And that's it. I literally have 0 assets. I lease my car. I rent my home. I don't have any stock. I've got some crypto, but that's only because our clients have paid us with crypto, and I've just kind of left it there. I don't even know what's in it, And every time I hear like people talk about, creating your wealth and investing and stuff like that, at first it was, no, I want to focus. Because in 2019, after having followed Grant Cardone for the longest time, it was like almost like peer pressure.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a little bitch. Invest your money. If your money, your money's useless unless it's used, And I had like, I don't know, a couple $100,000 in the bank. And I'm like, okay, I need to do something with it. And for the longest time, I'm like studying real estate. And then after 6 months, I'm like, dude, I'm spending 10, 15 hours a week learning something I'm not passionate about because I've got a couple $100,000. Like, it's not even worth it. What am I going to buy with this? Especially in California, I was living at the time, And then I was like, what if I just put all this time back into my business that's growing 20, 30% per month, And that's where I was like, all right, I just need to leave this alone. But then now it's like, well, why aren't you doing something else? And so is it focus, or is it that fear that your father once lost and now you're afraid? And so we were kind of working on unpacking that. So the short answer is yes and no. I think I've created my own wisdom, because one thing that I was telling my mentor, Sam Ovens, is we learn, like, I value mentors a ton. And there is, what I've learned from my mentors, there's no price I can put on it. But what I've learned more is in what not to do than what to do. And so looking back at my dad, it's like, all right, this is how he ran his life. This is how he ran his business, how he ran everything. This is what I need to do. But all these things are things that I need to not do, right? And this is where I was like, all right, I need to make sure that I don't do these things in my life. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
I think that was so well said. And I'm so happy we can have this conversation, because I literally have this conversation with other 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs all the time. And it's the exact same situation. It's like, how do you decide, like, when is enough? Like, everyone knows you got to stay focused, right? I think anybody that's at the 8-figure level knows that it's about focus, right? Yeah. But then at the same time, you have this money piling up, and then you're thinking, okay, essentially, in my eyes, what you're doing is weighing opportunity cost.
Right.
Is the opportunity cost of taking my eye off the business and investing this money, is that greater or less than if I stayed on the business and ignored the money's time? Right. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't think anybody knows the actual answer to it, right? I know when I paid my tax bill in 2020, I was like, all right, like that was my first 7-figure tax bill. And I was like, okay, I got to figure this out, because I couldn't do this again. So I ended up going, like, I indexed way on the other side, and I got these advisors and just went crazy into it. And like you said, I was like 20 hours a week doing this stuff. And I was like, oh my God,
and how energy draining
and
were
it's
those
not even like
conversations?
it's not even like you're done with it once you're due. It's like you have to, every year you got to do something else. You got to, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, exactly what you said. Energy draining, and you're just, you feel like you know what you're doing in your world of business, and then you go in this other world over here, and you're just like this little kid, and which I love learning, right? Yeah. But it's like, how applicable is this stuff later on? And then of course everybody's like, well, you got to be careful because of this and this, it's a little gray line. And I just think it's so funny because I don't know if there is a right time to like start deploying the assets.
Can I touch on something?
Yeah,
here?
I'd love to. Yeah, of course.
So there is this phrase that I came up with: "Get there syndrome," and this is something that us, especially younger entrepreneurs, we have this FOMO that I need to get it all figured out today. And I think that's where it all stems from. It's that, oh shit, I paid 7 figures in taxes last year. I need to save money. Dude, you're fucking 23, 30 years old, whatever, it's like, who cares how much you pay in taxes? Are you going to die next year?
Yeah.
Is your business going to go out of business next month? Like, sometimes my marketing team comes to me and they're like, hey man, we need to do this thing. I'm like, all right, we just started split testing this. Let's wait another 2 weeks. But we're going to waste 2 weeks. I'm like, okay. We're building a business that's going to be there 100 years from now. Like, who cares if we take another 2 weeks? And I think this is very important that I just realized in working with my performance coach. She talks about how every human has wisdom inside of them. And oftentimes, because of all the mainstream medium and social media, we have so many messages that we get every single day. If we just sit back and settle and allow all the crazy thoughts to go away and kind of like connect our body with our mind and just really listen to our wisdom, you'll hear that wisdom come up. And like earlier, it's like, yeah, I don't know what the right answer is. Maybe now I think that what I'm doing is right. In 5 years, I'm going to look back and say, that was stupid.
Yep.
But you know what? Who cares?
It's just so well said. And it's just every person I know that has that level of confidence, it's simply for one reason. It's not that they know things that other people don't. It's just that they have a longer term vision. That's all it is. It's just like, you may not know, and I may not know, but like you said, if I'm trying to get there now, I'm much more stressed out about it, and I may make a mistake where you're like, I'll figure it out. I got 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years to figure it out. And what you said earlier, I actually, ironically enough, I made an investment in cryptocurrency recently in a company that went bankrupt. And so my funds are like locked up inside of there.
Oh, wow.
And it made me go back and like, I was like, okay, in most of my life, I have frameworks for things. I have frameworks for business. I have frameworks for my personal life, how I make it, just so my decision-making process is easier, right? Yeah. Just easy. It falls in this category, do this thing. And I realized that I had none for investing. And so the first thing I wrote down was exactly kind of the theme what you're talking about here, was that it is okay to hold cash. Like, it is like, you are pressured in every, and if you're listening to this right now, you're an entrepreneur, you're starting to get cash, everyone's going to try to grab that cash from you, right? But it is actually okay to hold cash. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. Like, it is actually okay. You're not going to miss out on anything because like, you're not going to time the market. And once again, I think that, I don't know, I think there's momentum in business. And I think that if you like you take your foot off the pedal and you go to this other direction right now, all that energy that you just had going, this is now being stopped by almost this invisible brick wall of this like area that you don't have rutted out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. I want to touch on really quickly the fire burning down, because I thought that was like, that was my favorite part of that story, no offense, but so you're doing the business, you think you're hot shit, everything's going well. What happened with the fire? How did that transform your life a little bit? Walk me through that. And if I remember correctly, you were on a date with your now wife, I think. So yeah, walk me through what happened there.
Well, first of all, nothing was going great.
I guess you thought, I guess that's
so, and when people hear this part of the story, like, okay, so you burnt and got paid by insurance. I'm like, no, I actually didn't have insurance, And so, maybe 6 months into the whole venture, I realized that I didn't know what the hell I was doing, because I was driving to the restaurant in the morning, and then Trish called me. She was my restaurant manager, and she said, hey, my bank called, and they said the check bounced. I'm like, check bounced? The hell do you mean check bounced? So I opened my app, and then I log into my online banking. I think I had Wells Fargo at the time. And sure enough, it was like negative. I was like, negative? What the fuck? Dude, I thought I had money, And then so the listener is probably thinking, how did you not know how much money you had? Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the hell did I have anything to do with starting a business? We got that figured out. And then, so this was about 6 months in. That's when I realized that, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Bills started piling up. We were spending a lot more than we were making. And we hadn't even started remodeling, because I bought a dive rundown restaurant And the plan was turn it around, rename it, do the whole thing, because this is what John Taffer did. Right?
You're staying true to it. You're staying true to it.
So I was like, John Taffer, And I was like, and then I had budgeted $50,000. Budgeted in my mind, not actual, the first time someone told me, do you have a budget? I was like, what's that? And then I remember a few nights after, I get on a call with my contractor at like 10 o'clock at night, and he gives me this plan and this budget of $275,000. And that was, I think, one of the first times that I almost felt like I died and then came back again.
Wow.
I was like, what? Like I couldn't even swallow. I'm like, 275,000 for what? I'm thinking 50K. I don't even have the 50K, I'm like, all right, I can come up with 50K somehow, 275,000. And then we started cutting corners. Okay, don't do this, don't do that. Don't get a permit, just close the walls, close the windows, remodel at night. And so what I would do is I would be working 48 to 49 hour shifts. What I would do is I would go open, close, and then my cousin, my brother, and my other employee would come over at night, and we would remodel overnight. We'd clean, open up. I would open, close, and then go home and sleep, and then I would do that again. And so I learned how to frame walls, lay tiles. I mean, I can build this entire room for you if you wanted, And so again, I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. And 2 months prior to the fire, my brother decided to shut down our pizzeria, which me and him and our parents decided to were running before.
So the family pizzeria.
The family pizzeria. And that was a successful business. That did very well. But after I left, he just didn't want to run it by himself anymore. My parents got tired and he just wanted to do something else. So that same Keith guy came back and was like, hey, man, why don't you, because obviously what you're doing isn't working. You've got too much competition. What about you bring that concept here, because that worked? So I'm like, cool. So we bring my brother's equipment, we install it here, we change everything, we literally redo everything. First time in my life that I actually hire someone, which was that Keith guy. He came on as a consultant, which, by the way, he offered me $200,000 3 months prior. He said, I'll give you $200,000 in cash, give me the restaurant, and get the hell out of here. I said, go fuck yourself.
Wow.
I should have taken that money and ran, We redid the place. We were averaging about $20,000 to $25,000 a month in revenue for a long time.
What was the concept change that the other restaurant did?
Everything, like burgers, barbecue, sushi, Mediterranean, everything, to now and then also I was trying to, on Fridays I had DJ and we had a mechanical bull. So I'd have girls and like topless, on top of the bull. And then I'm trying to cater to schools in the morning. And so that didn't work. It was a very tight-knit community. And it's like, yeah, we're seeing your post on Facebook. Like, I'm not going to bring my kids here. And so, so we went completely family-oriented, changed the name, changed everything, remodeled. And that worked.
Wow.
First month after, we did 47,000. Second month, we were targeting for 67,000, and then we were just going to be scaling. And so one of the pizza ovens was like 65,000 years old. We had because I didn't have money, I hired some Joe Schmo to do the piping and all that. So it was 5 p.m., April 28th, 2015. I had just left the restaurant, so this wasn't overnight. Anyone is saying, I lit the fire, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, full restaurant. I had just left, I think it was a Tuesday. I went to pick up my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And 5 minutes after, I get a call, John, hey boss, the kitchen's on fire. Okay, we've got an extinguisher, man. Put it out. How bad is it? It's like, no boss, we're all outside and the fire department is here. I was like, oh shit. So I messaged my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, something happening? I go back, like 7, 8 fire engines, smoke, everything. So I go down and I'm like, I can't breathe. My heart is racing. Feels like it's coming out of my chest. And I'm just thinking like, dear God, please make sure that this is not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. I want to go inside and they're not letting me in. I'm like, okay, it's bad.
Wow.
And I'm standing outside. I'm like sweating. I'm crying. I'm just all emotions all at the same time. And my landlord, Steve, comes next to me and he said, well, hey man, you can get a fresh start. Insurance will take care of you. And I'm like, Steve, I look at Steve and Steve is looking at me and I'm like, I'm fucked, Steve. He's like, why? I'm like, Steve, I don't have insurance. And he's like, oh, you're fucked. And I don't know what he was thinking. I hadn't paid him rent in like 3 months.
No.
So he walked away and I went inside. I go to the kitchen and firefighters, they come and they just tear everything because they don't want to make sure. First, it's a historic building. It's like built in 1800s. So they want to make sure that the fire hasn't spread. And so the kitchen is destroyed. The place is all smoky. Everything, all the walls are just, there's like ash everywhere and it's just messy and the smell. And my dad comes and he overhears a conversation outside that Steve is telling everyone this dumbass doesn't have insurance. And my dad comes in and he's like, you haven't paid insurance? I'm like, no. And I could just see the look on my dad's face. And so just kind of go back a little bit, for the longest time, we looked wealthy when we lived in Iraq because we had a fancy house. My dad had properties because his business was doing well. But after the crash, the economy crash, we were pretty much poor because he didn't have a cash flowing business. And so after the war in 2003, when we actually migrated to Iraq, my dad was able to liquidate some of his properties, and he had transferred $200,000 into my bank, which is how I bought that place. And this was my college fund because my mom wanted me to become a doctor. My dad said, do whatever you want. I said, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to retire you and mom. I'm going to be the guy that's going to take care of the family. It's been 20 years. You've been trying. Hasn't worked. I'm going to take care of you. I got you. And this is when he, he looked at me. He's like, you do realize this was the last $200,000 I had, right? I'm like, I know. And every time I tell the story, I get pretty emotional. But for 6 months after that, just lost respect. He wouldn't even look at me in the eyes. I would walk in home. He would turn around, go up to his room, and yeah, man, it was a tough time, and for about 2 months there, I got into depression, drinking heavily, grew my beard, which is how the mustache came about, and I got a DUI, which was byproduct of drinking all the time. And for about 2 months there, I lost hope. I thought all these dreams that I've had all my life, these are just, crazy stories in fantasy world. This is real life. This is what people go through. This is the stuff that John Taffer didn't talk about in Bar Rescue. This is real life shit. This is my life pretty much, And but finally, one day I opened my laptop and I said, you're supposed to make me money, show me how. And things changed from there. But I think everybody has a moment in their lives where they get to that point where it's like, it doesn't seem like life is going to ever turn around, but it's up to you if you want to keep going or if you want to stop there,
Yeah, I loved, and I think we even talked about that at my house that night, is just like, I've gone through some really difficult times in my life, and obviously you have as well. And it's just, even no matter your personal development, almost always there is at least a split second where you're just like, fuck, this is it, or like, this is really bad, and I think as we've grown and we're able to absorb blows a little bit more, my subconscious mind immediately is like, this is a big deal, this is a problem, and then I have to unwind that and be like, look, I can solve this. My favorite quote in the world is, things are neither good nor bad, but thinking makes them so, right? And so I'm like, okay, I can reframe this. But I think that in the moment, it's very easy to fall into kind of what you fell into there, especially losing as much as you did, and to fall into drinking and like then the DUI. And I can only imagine what your like state of mind is at that point. And of course, you look back now, and it's a great lesson for everybody else, and you're just like, obviously that made you thank God, that happened, thank God, right? Yeah. And how's the relationship with your father now? Is it
it's good? Amazing, man. Yeah. I've been able to retire him. I've been able to, we're buying them a house this year, which is beautiful. Pretty awesome. Which in California for $1 million you get like a condo with one bedroom.
One bedroom place. Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. But it took a while to gain back his respect. It took a while to kind of like, because he was also skeptical of all the things that came after, it was like, all right, well, yeah, you're trying this and you're trying that, but who said it's not going to turn another one of these, you know what I mean? And it took a while, and it will take a while. It's not going to be something where it'll just happen, overnight. And I know people talk about, they see the glory, But no one really talks about like the bullshit that happens before the glory, because yes, it is an overnight success that's been in the works for 20 years.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think, like you had said when we talked about money earlier, one way or another, subconsciously, you probably are very cautious with your money when you saw your dad lose it all, then you lost it all through the fire. Like, so there has to be some kind of programming in your mind that's like, Bashar, hold on to this money because you don't know which is good, because if you come into money very quickly, it's very easy for it to just go right out the door the same way that it came in.
And this is what happened to me when I was given money, because I was given money. Although I didn't party, I didn't go out, I didn't blow it on stupid shit, but I did blow it on stupid shit because I wasn't spending it wisely. Although, yes, it was being invested in the business, but it wasn't being invested in the right places, I didn't know how to create, budgets and P&Ls and, figuring out, like I would have someone ask me, what's your cost into each one of these plates? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, do you guys portion things? What do you mean by portioning things, And so like all these things I didn't know and I wasn't open to knowing. And that's where a lot of people also make the mistake, is that, look, no one comes out of their mom with a PhD and knowing everything. It's just you need to be able to go through life and take the lessons. And I think, the very first advice I ever got from anyone was from my brother. I think I was like 6, 7 years old. I don't know what happened. I think I fell and broke my foot or something. And I was crying. And my brother hugged me and he said, everything happens for a reason. He obviously said in Arabic, but that's what it translates to. And now every time something happens, no matter how traumatic, I always think everything happens for a reason. And in fact, now every time a crisis happens in my life, the bigger the crisis, the more excited I get.
Yeah.
Although I am fearful and like insanely like I'm just like, I don't want to be in this situation. But I know that this is a time for me to learn and grow. I was living, every month I have a quote that I write on my board that I kind of live by every month. And last month was, thank you, life, for being difficult, because it is through difficulties that we learn and grow.
Yep.
And this is kind of what I've experienced, through the restaurant, through building a business, and then everything else. It's just that everything happens for a reason.
So let's talk about, you moved to the transition to the online world. You open up the laptop, you said earlier, like, hey, you're supposed to make me money. What did you stumble across? How did you get in the online world? And then I want to get into some real tactical stuff, but I think we should just transition the story now. Deep depression, didn't know the way out, to like actually starting to make some money online. And now you finally saw a roadmap forward. How did you come across it? What did that look like?
Yeah. And my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, although I had only known her for so long, she kind of believed in me more than I did.
Wow.
And she was like, hey man, look, like this is just a hiccup. It is what it is. Like, because I always used to talk big and stuff like that. And although like at the time now thinking about it, wasn't really that big, but it's like to what she was used to, or like the friends that we had, it was big talk, And she was like, I know you're going to do something with your life. I don't know what yet, but don't just give up. And it was a couple of things. So the first thing was I got recognized so I started working for Hilton Hotels as a dishwasher, and I started driving for Uber. And during, while I was driving for Uber, I started making connections. Like I would just talk people's ears off. And I would literally
you were that kind of Uber driver,
I was that kind of Uber driver until they would tell me, hey bro, I'm just trying to get to my place. Like, I'm just trying to listen to my thing or whatever, or they would put their headphones on, I was trying to collect as many phone numbers. I was trying to like do something, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then I started hearing all these people doing all these different things. And like someone would walk into my car and I would look at them like, dude, you look like you're a nobody. And then they're telling me about their journey. And I'm like, holy shit. Like that could be me sitting in the back, And then I started driving, working for Hilton Hotels, and the kitchen manager, the kitchen supervisor actually recognized me because he was one of the purveyors that used to deliver food to our restaurant. He used to work for one of the purveyors that would deliver. And he's like, what the hell are you doing here? And so I explained to him, and it's like, hey man, I've got an opening in the kitchen if you want to be a kitchen manager, $60K a year. This was 2015, $60K a year plus benefits, plus PTO, plus all that. At the time, I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't made $60K ever, because in my restaurant, I was not making money. I was losing money every single month. And And so I started doing the math. By the time, at the time, I was about 150K in debt.
Oh, wow.
I owed the IRS like 47,000. Steve sued me, who was my landlord. And I had all these like different things that I had to pay. And so I'm doing the math. I'm like, after 60K, I'm trying to get married. You know, how much do I have left paying debt? It was going to take me like 18 years just to clear my debt. And I'm like, fuck that. There's got to be another way. And I had met a friend a few months prior who told me that he worked from home. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And he's like, I work from home. And I'm like, what do you mean by you work from home? Like, to me, you know, again, being in a restaurant business, it's like, yeah, you go to work, people come, you do a service or product, and then they, you know, exchange this money.
And
like,
what year was this too?
2015.
Yeah, so even way before everybody knew what work from home was.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. And I was like, what? I don't know what he did exactly, but I think he was like a programmer or something like that. And so he's like, yeah, dude, there's like, people make money online. I'm like, no shit. I'm like, how? Doing what? It's like, just research YouTube. I'm like, the fuck is that? You know? And so I got on YouTube. I had this like 3-inch thick laptop, Toshiba laptop. I still have it just to remind me. And I went to Starbucks, opened it, literally went on YouTube, and I said, hey man, you're supposed to make me money. Show me how. Literally. And I started typing like how to make money online, you know, and it's like this new world opened up, and I was like, holy shit. And then I'm 25 years old, and I see all these 17, 18-year-old kids running around in Lamborghinis, and I'm like, what the fuck has been going on here? Where have I lived? Like, and that's where the ego came in, bigger than ever. And even because even Amazon, after having lost almost $500,000, you would think that I would get a coach or mentor and, you know, courses and stuff like that. It's like, no, if an 18-year-old can do it, I can do it. This motherfucker has nothing on me. I can figure this out. And so I went and borrowed $5,000 from my mother, who's now my mother-in-law. I had just met her daughter 6 months, 7 months. And being Middle Eastern, you don't just go and date my daughter and go, you know, go drive around and stuff like that. If you want to date my daughter, you need to come propose, you know? So not only was I dating their daughter, I borrowed money from them.
Oh my gosh.
Which, by the way, lost it all. Launched a few products, didn't know what I was doing. And then there was this 18-year-old kid in a tank top, the shittiest course I've ever taken in my life ever, $497. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Just got to do it. Called my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, do you trust me? She said, yes, but why? Very skeptical. I was like, I need your card number. For what? Just trust me on this. Your card number. Gave me the card number, put the course on her card, sat at Starbucks from like 10, 11 o'clock. It was a short course. I finished it in one day. I was like, fuck. I wish I didn't put that money into these products because I knew exactly the mistake that I made. It was very simple. I had launched the seasonal product. By the time I got to Amazon, it was off season. So the other one was competitive. The other one wasn't differentiated correctly, whatever. So I went and borrowed more money. I'm already 150K in debt. I've already borrowed $5,000 from my mother-in-law. I went and borrowed another $70-something $100 from like a few friends. And then I launched my
You got a lot of good friends and people, I'll tell you that. A lot of people that are so betting on you. That's pretty impressive.
You know, I've had 2 friends that went to high school with me that are pretty good friends still. Both of them said, go fuck yourself. I'm not lending you money.
I probably would have said that.
You know?
I probably would have said that too.
It's like, dude, I've worked hard for this money. And the people that did lend me the money were actually people that I didn't really know that much.
Really?
You know? And
maybe that's why they didn't know that you were a bad bet.
I don't know. And you know what? Those people, there were especially 2 of them, I've told them whatever you want, anytime you want. You want $1 million, you will get it tomorrow morning. No problem.
Wow.
You know? No one has called yet.
Yeah, hopefully they're not listening to this podcast right now.
Just kidding. But no, seriously, whatever they want, because they were there for me, you know? And one of them gave me $5,000. The other one gave me like $2,200, $2,300, something like that.
Wow.
And so I was another, 15, 16K in the hole on top of the 150K. And I just went for it, man. And first product, started making money. Second product, started making money. I was like, shit, this is something, you know? And it took like 7-8 months until I paid the first couple of people off. My mother-in-law didn't get paid until like a year and a half later. We almost were about to get married. My wife was like, I think we need to pay my mom soon. You know, I was like, all right, you know? And so, yeah, man, this is how I got started, you know? But it was a lot of trial and error in the beginning. And it was a lot of mistakes. And again, it's like sometimes you think you've learned your lesson, but you really haven't.
Yeah.
And then I just realized that. And then since then, I've become very obsessed with mentors and coaches. This year so far, we've invested 570 something thousand in coaching consultants, mentors, just for myself and my company.
And what do you, I'd love to transition into that for a moment. Like, obviously a company doing multiple 8 figures a year. What are you investing in for mentors, and what are you doing for your company? Where's some of that 570 going? I mean, the name names, but like what kind of mentors were they?
So specific masterminds for the leaders.
Okay.
Like a sales training for our sales, head of sales, $50,000 a year right there. With a mastermind I'm in with a couple of our leadership, we pay combined, all 4 of us, we pay about $76,000 a year. I am in 3 different masterminds, which I'm going to be dropping out of and staying with just one. Recently, I went on a 2.5 months ago, I went on a kind of like a coaching tangent, and I was like, I want this and this and this. And masterminds are great, but I'm like, how can I squeeze the 1 year into 1 hour, 2 hours? So I made a list of people that I want to have a one-on-one with. And I just reached out and I said, hey, what's your price? Name it. I'll pay you. I want 2-3 hours with you. So I reached out to people like Dan Locke, Ty Lopez, Dean Graziosi, and paid them $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 an hour, and just getting on a 1 hour call with them. And, have a list of questions and then asking. So, all right, and, next month I'll come up with more questions and then go implement in the business. Now, obviously, someone listening, they'd be like, well, dude, I don't have $10,000 to go drop on 1 hour. It's like, yeah, but that's not where I started. My first course was $500 7 years ago. But I've built up to it, And so right now, it's investing in talent, overpaying my team, bonuses. I think we overpay the shit out of our team, and I love it. Next Friday, next weekend, we have our first ever company get together.
Nice.
We're blowing almost $150,000 on this 3-day event.
Well, you're making ours a company retreat look bad. We got ours in a few weeks. I don't know if my team's listening there. I don't know if that's the budget for it, but
and but we're going over the top, and so just doing things like that, man. Investing in the company, investing again because I don't invest in anything. So it's like, what's the cash sitting in the bank for?
Sure.
Obviously, you do like the profit, but then it's like, but what is it doing really?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, let's reinvest back in the business.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Someone would argue it's an investment in itself, back into the team, back in it. Yeah, 100%. Which I 100% can get behind. Give me, just for the people that are listening, because I got a mix of people that listen to this podcast. I got people who are just starting out, but also we have 8-figure guys that listen to this as well. So out of the different guys you listen to, or gals, for like the $10,000, $15,000 an hour, what was 1 or 2 of the biggest kind of takeaways that you could distill down for people that are listening that was like, which is difficult to do because I know that you're already condensing so much down to an hour, and then to condense that down even further. But like, what was something that you were like, damn, I didn't think of looking at it like that?
Dean said, he said, so we're in the process of and this is probably for the guy that's doing 7-8 figures, we're currently in the process of like rebuilding our processes, because we've literally built a multi-8-figure company with 1 product, 1 funnel, 1 everything, and Google Sheets and Zaps. Our Zap, we do about 500,000 Zaps a month.
Yeah.
And so one day I was looking at this and I'm like, dude, I don't think Apple runs like that. I don't think Microsoft runs like that. Like, something is broken here, And so we've completely shifted and gone into like building systems, building processes. We're integrating EOS. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, of course.
So we're integrating EOS. We had all the leadership, read Rocket Fuel, read Traction, incredible books. And so Dean said, it's good to sometimes take a break and just slow down for a quick second. And if it takes 2 months, if it takes 6 months, if it takes 12 months to build, so that way you get ready for the next thing. And just do know that if you have envision in your mind that you're not going to stop at 10 or 20 or 50 or 100, build it to last.
Yeah.
Build something today that's going to last all these levels. So now when our, soon to be integrator comes to me and says, hey, we've got the system, we can go with this as $2,000, or we can go with this $10,000. The 2,000 can probably get us to this. 10,000 can get us to that. It's like, no, go through the 10,000.
Yeah.
It's a bigger cost, but we're not going to need to stop in 2 years and say, oh, we need to redo this thing. Let's just do it right, because I know we're not going to stop here. We're going to $1 billion and plus, so let's just build it right.
Hey guys, really quickly, if you're getting value out of this, please be sure to share it wherever you share things. Share it with your friends, your colleagues, your employees. Share it to somebody that you know needs to hear this message. We put an incredible amount of work into these videos and these episodes for you, and all I ask in return is for simply to share it to somebody else that wants to hear that or needs to hear this message. All right, let's get back to it.
And it goes right back to the theme that we're talking about earlier, which is the longer term vision, right?
Yes.
It's having the longer term vision. Let's transition a little bit over to the business, just for people who aren't aware. Walk us through. Obviously, you were doing the e-commerce, Amazon specifically. You were incredibly successful with that. Now you run an e-learning platform around us. Can you kind of explain to us what you do in the main business that you have currently?
Yeah, so it started in 2018. I was with my wife's cousin. And it's a question that I don't know, maybe I asked you when we, had dinner. He said, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? And I stared at him for like 5 minutes. I'm like, fuck, I have no clue. He's like, not an Amazon seller? Like, I thought you do very well. I'm like, I do. And it's like, so? I'm like, I don't know, man. And at the time, I was, so this was late 2018. I was a 7-figure seller. I think just cracked 7 figures, was probably making $10,000, $15,000 a month in profits, spending like 30 minutes a day. Because with Amazon, once you build it, you've got some VAs running it and stuff like that. It's very, it's pretty systematic. Amazon makes it pretty easy for you. And, but I just had lost, like when I first started, I want to get out of debt. I want to do something.
It was away from fear.
Right. It was away from fear. I'm 150K in debt. I met someone that's special for me, and I want to make sure that I offer the kind of life that I really would want my wife to have. I want to gain the respect back of my parents. I want to retire them. I want to buy them a house. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so I had accomplished most of those things, and then that drive stopped. There was no more drive. And so, waking up at 8 became 9, 9 became 10, 10 became 11. I was like, okay, there's something here. There's something wrong here. And around that same time, because for about 2-3 years while I was building, I went away. Once I came back to the world, a few friends were like, hey, dude, where the hell have you been up to? This. Oh, cool. What does this teach me? And I had taught a few friends. And one day I got a text message. This guy, Zach Brown, he said, Bashar, you're the fucking man. In the last 6 months, I made $36,000 in profits. And the profits were cool. But the thing that was really cool about it is that I got on the phone with him, and he's like, 23-year-old kid from North Carolina. He said the thing that he was always passionate about is he would take his dirt bike and he would travel around the country, go on tournaments and stuff like that, and would like borrow money from here and there just to make it happen. But now this 23-year-old kid had a business that's running on autopilot that can go and do whatever the hell he wants and enjoy and chase after his passion while his finances are taken care of. And I saw the impact. And I was like, holy shit, not only can I gain the respect of my dad back and fix my finances in my life, but I could do the same for people. And that's when it became kind of like my calling almost. It's like I'm kind of obligated here. Like it's almost unfair that I know this stuff and that I'm not sharing it with the world. So this is when I went on YouTube and stuff like that. So today we run BJK University. It's an education platform with the mission to impact 1 million lives. Today, we're focused only on Amazon. Currently, we only have one product, which is an Amazon FBA coaching program, 7 weekly webinars. We have mindset training and all that. But next year, we're thinking of launching a mastermind, probably launching software. And then we want to scale within Amazon as vertical as possible. But then come 2024, we want to go into other horizontals. Because the reason why we named it BJK University and not, FBA training or something like that, it's because my vision was I want to create a platform where people you don't go to college to learn, to become an engineer or to become this or that. You go and you have all these options. So we want to provide people a skill because regardless who you are, you want better life. In order for you to have a better life, you need to up your skill level. So we want to provide people with a skill that within 90 days or less, they can turn into income. Without wasting tens of years and tens of thousands learning shit they'll never use, going to traditional school, right? And so that's where BJK University is and where it's going to be in the next future.
When you name BJK University, did you think I'm going to turn this into multiple different products, or was it just like something that rolled off the tongue?
The university part, yes, I did have the idea of I don't want to just stick with Amazon. but I didn't know. I don't think I knew how big it could get.
Yeah, so when I created Scaling with Systems, like the main goal was the current business that we have right now. But then even in the past year, I think what really opened my eyes was when Hormozi exited his company for multiple 8, almost 9 figures. And he had been at my house like 6 months before he exited, right? And so him and I were talking, and I think he was almost like the Roger Bannister, I don't know if you know the 4-minute mile story, right? Yeah. And no one had done it. Then he did it. Then 100 people did it in the next 12 months. And so when Hormozi had done it, I was like, I just didn't think it was possible to exit a education company, right? And not that I would ever even want to, but it's nice to have that opportunity, you know, essentially where the business owner is not the face of it. BJK is the face of it. You're not the face of it as well, right? And so for me, Scaling with Systems, it happened to be called Scaling with Systems and we trademarked it. But our 3 to 5 year goal is also to start, because like what you said with me, education, mentorship online totally transformed my life. And I do think it's unfair in the sense that it still blows my mind even today when people are like, just like, I have to go to college, I have to do that. And I want everybody to do whatever they want to do. I just think that people aren't aware of the other options out there, right?
I don't think they should go to college.
Yeah.
I'm very strong on that.
Okay,
don't fucking go to college.
Okay, that's fair.
Don't do
it. They sponsor this show, so I have to be careful what I'm just kidding. But my goal is also to create an acquisition company that Scaling with Systems would be a holding company, and then we would acquire other companies that would be able to teach different skills. So like one would be remote integration, one could be sales, one could be ops, whatever it is as well. And I think, like you said as well, when I came to a certain point in Scaling with Systems, I almost felt exactly what you were naming a little bit there, where it was like, I don't want to say flatlining, but I did feel like some of the like once you have enough money that where you can get, relatively speaking, anything you want. I mean, I'm not buying like jets, but you know, I will buy a jet next year, but not a huge jet when I can fly myself. But I kind of lost that, and I think that next level up for me was going to be the acquisitions game, and get into other points. But I think one of the coolest things that you've done is the focus you've done with one product, one service, one funnel. So like, let's walk through that a little bit. I know your main acquisition channel is like one thing. And when I talk to you, like, hey, how are you going to grow to this number? And you were like, I'm just going to do more of this one thing. And I was like, wow, that's insane. So I just want to get an understanding from you. When you were scaling the business and you started like growing, did you test multiple different channels out? Are you still constantly testing other channels out? Like for the person that's listening to this, they have one channel that works. Should they continue to scale that up? Should they look at other channels to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Diversify their traffic sources in case one goes down. What are your thought process around that?
So like, almost, you know, when I first joined Russell Brunson's mastermind, he said, diversify your marketing. You know, when I talked to Dan Locke, he said the worst number in business is 1. And that's why I didn't talk to him again. No, I've been talking to him still. But, you know, I was like, you know, he's achieved higher success than me. So maybe when I'm at his level, I'll look back and I'll say, yep, that was stupid. He was right. But right now, I don't think that's right. To your question, yes, I had tried everything. So when I first joined Sam Ovens, which was the first consulting course that I took about consulting. Prior to that was just Amazon, all that stuff, how to sell on Amazon. But once I wanted to learn how to scale my consulting business, Sam was the man, you know? And so I learned the VSL thing, I learned Facebook ads, and I scaled to about $150K a month with Facebook ads by myself, running marketing, sales, coaching, running an Amazon business. Still, I was just a one-man show doing it all. You know, 7-figure a year, multiple 7-figure business here. I was like, shit, life is good. And then I woke up and Facebook ads were gone, you know, shut down. And then it was just a battle for 3 months. And then I tried to do YouTube ads. And then I think I joined Alex Becker's. And I was just like, dude, this is just too complicated. So I hired an agency to do my YouTube ads. And it was just breaking even.
That never works. Yeah,
it was just breaking even, you know? And then one of them was like, hey, dude, have you tried influencer marketing? I've got a client that's doing influencer marketing on Instagram and it's blowing up. I was like, no shit. So I went and I checked it out. I'm like, this is cool. I started just reaching out to like motivational pages. Hey, man, post this on your page, drive traffic to me, drive traffic to the link in bio, blah, blah, blah. One of the page owners reached out and he's like, hey, bro, I see what you want to do, but what you're doing sucks. I can do it better. Pay me this much a month. I'll do it for you. Cool. And so little by little, it just became a thing. And then I was, you know, when I joined Sam Ovens Mastermind in 2020, I see Sam up because to me, Sam Evans is like this cool, slick back hair, Manhattan apartment. And then I joined the mastermind, and I'm looking at Sam, and Sam is like this long hair.
You got the California
He
Sam.
looks like, well, no, not even. He looks like Jesus, and he's in a forest in New Zealand.
Oh, that's
this
right.
This was during
yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, and he was talking about how he's gone off social media, YouTube, all that. And I'm like, yep, that's what I want to do. So I stopped posting everywhere. And then I fired the agency, and I'm like, I'm just going to learn how to do YouTube ads, and I'm going to like go in my cave and go in my lab and then just figure it out. And that just wasn't working. And then I was telling the Instagram guys, I'm like, hey, look, this month we're going to pull the plug. And they're like, just give us 1 month. And this was October of 2020. So it was 10,000 a month in profits, and then 20,000 a month, and then 30,000 a month. I'm like, shit, this is going somewhere. And then 2021 came around. We were 2 people. It was me and our head of sales now. And then it was 2 in the marketing team. This was 2021, we did 150. 2022, we did 2.3 of January of 2022. And this year so far, we've done a little over 12 million. So, but again, over the last 3 months, we flatlined, and this is where, all right, it's not about like from 0 to 7 figures. It was just having an offer that sells, I think. And then 7, 8 figures was figuring out like having sales, but figuring out a marketing strategy. And then I think now 8 to 9, it's a solid business. And I've seen a lot of people come to this like $1 million a month and go, $1 million a month and go. And I've realized that they get to this point of, because I think a lot of us get into this game because I'm a marketer, I can sell shit. And then it gets to this point where it's not a marketing game anymore. It's not a sales game anymore. I need to build a fucking real business. I need to have I need to do the real CEO shit.
Yeah.
I need to have a COO, and I need to have an entire executive team, and I need to do all this like complicated shit where people in suits are going to come into my house and shit, And I think this is where people are like, nope, I can probably jump into this other niche and then do this thing again. And that's why you see this whole guru like niche hopping thing. Every 6, 12, 18 months, you see this same guy just going from one niche to another and building a completely new company, new offer. I'm like, dude, I'm not in the business of offers.
Yeah.
I don't have an offer. Like when people say, how many offers do you have? I'm like, what the fuck is that? Dude, I'm a real company. We have one product line, and then this is where we want to go. And so this is why when people like marketers call it offers, I'm like, that's fucked. So now it's about building systems, having people that believe in the vision. And this is very important as well, is that you need to have a vision that's bigger than yourself, bigger than your team, bigger than anything else. And preferably it's not attainable in your lifetime, in their lifetime, in your kid's lifetime, and their kid's lifetime. It's something so large, so massive that you can't even fathom. It's like the universe. Like, how does the sky and oceans, and like every time we try to think about it, it's like, how the fuck does that work? But we believe, we have faith, And so it needs to be something so large. The magnitude has to be so large where you don't even understand it, but you're so fucking excited about it. And you wake up, and Tony Robbins, I recently joined his mastermind, which I didn't even know that Tony had a mastermind. He talks about how it's easier to have something that pulls you instead of pushing all the time. Because when you're pushing all the time, you need to be motivated every morning, right? But when you've got something so large in the future that's just pulling you, you don't need motivation, man. You just wake up and it's like, let's go.
I think that one of the coolest things you said there was like the 8 to 9 figures thing you said was like systems and building the systems out. And we're discovering that ourselves. And I think another way to put it as well is like a team. I think the team is really, most people that are at the 7 figures, they have like a marketer, they have sales guys, and then they have one client success person that's handling 600 clients, right? It's like, it's not really, and I think you talk about Sam Evans a lot as well, who I think is an absolute goat. And I joined his higher level mastermind, I think in 2019. I ended up actually only doing one thing ever, which is I went to one in-person mastermind. I was living in San Diego, and he had one in LA, and I ended up going to that. And that was still one of the best masterminds I've ever been to, only because I remember he brought up vision, mission, and values. And I remember thinking like, what the fuck, dude? I just paid like 40 grand and I needed to know Facebook ads. And you're talking to me about the fucking values and vision and mission. And I'm there with my buddy and I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. I can't believe we did this. Like, I just got shut off of Facebook ads. I want to know YouTube ads. And I was like, all right, whatever. I paid the money. And so I still remember what he had me do was write down everything you hate in somebody else, and the opposite of that was your values for your company, right? And it was then that I don't even think I understood it then, but I started to understand a little bit there, like, okay, like maybe this does make sense. And then he said something that I never forgot, which was that the values just simply become how decision making happens to your company when you're not there, right? So when you're presented with a problem, let me rephrase that. When your team is presented with a problem, you have two options. You have this option over here, or you have the option that what would the values do? Not right. What would Ravi do? What would the values do? And I think I have HARP values. So I even made a post, like I have a reminder every week to remind our team in some way or another, a story about how we should be embodying our values. And it's just so funny because it's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At like when you're just like trying to make your first million or first few $1 million, you're just like doing whatever you need to do. And I think you can hustle to make it happen. But to make multiple 8 figures, yeah, you got to start talking like vision. What do you mean you got to talk about vision? Like that? No. You just got to work harder. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's all you got to do. And you got to start painting a vision. And then I forgot the book that I read, but it's by Peter Drucker. And he talks about, it's executive something, but anyway, he talks about that most CEOs are not actually CEOs. Most executive officers are not actually doing the work of executive officers. And I realized that was also me. Mm-hmm. I love ads and I'm a marketer. I love marketing. But the problem was that I'm the CEO of the company, yet here I am being really what was a CMO's job. I was literally doing all of the marketing. I was like wanted to be in charge of everything. So I ended up hiring Jack, our creative director here. I ended up hiring a chief marketing officer. And like sometimes I just want to like go put my hands in there and change everything. But I know, going back to what you said earlier, in order for us to get to where I want to go, in order to get a 9-figure mark, even if it were moving slower, even if I think that it should be done differently, I have to kind of remove myself from that process.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I in the beginning of this year, I told our executives, I'm like, look at me as a counsel and a source of resources. Like, there are some things that you might do that I might not agree with, but at the end of the day, it's your decision. You make the decision. If you fuck up and make a mistake, great, no problem. Let's learn from it. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, if it keeps happening, there's a problem that we need to really correct. But unless they learn how to do it, because you're not going to be there every day. They're the ones hiring and firing. They're the ones running their teams, and they need to be able to know how to run their teams. And if that doesn't work, then you just have the wrong person in the right seat, and you just got to swap them, So that's very important, delegating and just removing yourself. All you're doing is you're firing yourself up.
I want to ask you a question that I don't get to ask a lot of people because they're not at the level that you're at, but I think I always tell everybody this. I think the most underrated, undervalued, and underexperienced thing that CEOs will ever do is hiring and managing talent, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that, once again, I just said earlier that I think that's the thing that separates you from 7 to 8, maybe even 8 to 9. It's just really, really great people in the company, staying with the company. Walk me through some lessons that you've learned either on the hiring process, maybe on the team leadership process, the delegation. What are some of the lessons you had to maybe even learn the hard way that the people that are listening to this can take away from it when they're trying to find their first executive member or keep their first executive member or something along those lines?
So I've never hired into an executive seat before. And it worked this way. We're about to do, we're not even going to do that now, but it's always been because everyone that was with me kind of grew with me, and then it just made sense for them to take the executive seats, right?
Interesting.
For the first time now, so my integrator, we're not even hiring her into the integrator seat. It just so happened in November of last year, she was on a call with one of our closers to become a student. And he's like, we were hiring sales teams, and he's like, dude, you need to be on this other side. She became a sales rep, did very well. But then we realized that she has a lot more. She's like Superwoman, and we brought her up to do ops. And then from there, we tried to move into Salesforce, and that completely botched. I was leading that, and I was like, dude, I never want to do anything like that.
I remember we talked about that.
I am not a project manager. That's not what I do. I'm a visionary. Don't freaking tell me to manage shit. That's not what I do, And then she came on and led the migration into HubSpot. And it's been incredible. And to every person that doesn't even know what an integrator is like, that's our integrator.
Yeah.
It makes absolute sense. And so next week we're actually meeting to kind of finalize things, but she's been in the integrator seat. But again, I wasn't looking for an integrator, and I went out and hired someone. So I think obviously when you're just building a company, it's easier to like build together. I never looked at resumes. In fact, I never even asked about experience. When I was doing interviews, I would have questions about personal life. And I just want to have a conversation with you and see if we vibe. Like, so people talk about gut. Like, that just I have a weird gut feeling. I've got a good gut feeling about this. My gut, this and that. And what I realized that we actually have 3 brains. We have one here, one in our heart, and one in our stomach. And there's a reason why sometimes, like, when you're in a bad situation, you feel this, like, stomach turning. When you see, your high school crush, you have butterflies in your stomach. Well, because we have a brain in our stomach. And that's the whole wisdom thing I was talking about earlier. And if you're like a visionary type, which like just a dreamer, just want to go to the moon and stuff like that, then which a lot of founders are, what you want to do is personally, I go after my gut feeling, man. If I have a great feeling after having a 30-minute conversation with someone, I'm going to give him a shot. If not, I'm just going to move on, And I'm just asking like random ass questions. And like, I don't even have it's like a list of like 10 questions that I have, and I'll just pull from here and here and here, If it's like awkward, it's just like, dude, get the fuck out of here, Because we have especially for us, we've got a very high energy team. They're fucking maniacs. They're crazy, And so if I bring someone that's like dead, low energy, stuff like that, like sometimes we'll bring on a contractor or something, or like a trainer or something like that, and then they'll do like a presentation for the team. And then like, if they're not vibing at the same level, I'm just like, this motherfucker gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, we're just about to die right now. Because our meetings are like fucking crazy. Like, have you seen Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit, And this is how we vibe, and I want someone to vibe at that same level. That's just who we are. And so when it comes to hiring, it's almost more of like, look, anyone that comes in, we're on a 3-month, we're gonna get engaged for 3 months. If we like each other, we'll get married. Otherwise, no hard feelings. We'll pay you for whatever you're owed, and you go your separate ways. And then so it's very important to bring someone on. Executive level, fuck, man, it's difficult to hire from outside. It's a lot easier to hire from inside and just hire up.
It's so interesting because it's very rare I find somebody that actually recommends hiring inside. Because the question is, like, let's say for chief marketing officer, right?
Sure.
If you've never been a chief marketing officer, and this person that you're just hiring, maybe they're running your ads for you, has never been a chief marketing officer, then how does anybody know what the hell a chief marketing officer should be doing?
So something that we talk about a lot is that a skill could be taught, but culture must be a fit. If you are willing, if you're fucking willing, like you vibe and you're willing and you see the vision and you're here to stay and you're just a diehard BJKU fan, I can teach you anything because I will go and pay someone to come consult you. And all of our executives, we're paying for all of them to be consulted by 7-8-figure sellers and coaches and all this stuff, right? We have people that used to write copy for Tony, or used to write copy for all these people, coaching our internal copywriting team, right? As long as they have the potential and they have the bandwidth to become, then we will make it happen. Our head of marketing are 21 and 22-year-olds. That literally never ran a company in their lives. Now they've got a team of 9. How did they do it? They had the vision, they had the potential, they had the desire, they had the hunger. In fact, all of, like late 2021, they were telling me how they wanted to like they were setting the goals for the sales team, because I thought I was dreaming big and these motherfuckers want to double their results every month. And I'm like, dude, you guys got to chill the fuck out, And so, but then like they didn't have leadership qualities. And shit, I didn't have leadership qualities 2 years ago. I didn't have leadership qualities last week. I'm still building into a leader. Like that's one of my goals is to become one of the greatest leaders, And so it's like, well, if you've been able to grow yourself into this thing, why don't you expect others to do the same thing? Now I get it. Yeah, it's going and bringing people that are at, I'm not sure what kind of people you've been talking to, but like when you look at corporations, culture isn't really a huge thing for them. For us, it's big. Like that's literally the biggest thing. This is how we make decisions. You know what you were saying earlier about core values?
Yeah.
This is how we make decisions. We have our core values. We talk about them every single Monday meeting, every single sales meeting, every single marketing meeting. They talk about they repeat them. We talk about them almost half a dozen times a week, right? And so we're all very immersed in the core values. And if you don't resonate, you'll either fall out yourself or we'll just let you go. So we always say that a culture must be a fit, but a skill could be taught.
Absolutely, at no point would I hire somebody who was talented in the position but was not a culture fit, because like you said, I've done that before, and it doesn't matter, because if they're a sole like lone wolf and they don't fit culture wise, that person's not going to be there long, right? Either they're going to scare away your great talent or they're going to get scared away from your other talent. And I think Steven Schwarzman, one of the founders of BlackRock, he talks about he calls it the airport test. And he says that when you're interviewing with someone, if you can't see yourself stuck in an airport with them for 4+ hours and having a good time, then don't hire that person. And that's literally the way that we look at it as well.
That's good.
Bashar, unbelievable podcast, my man. I really do
man.
appreciate you being on here. I absolutely enjoyed it so much. I learned quite a bit. I hope everybody else did here as well. I know you don't do a lot of these also. We were just talking about you've only done 3 and I don't know how long, right? So I'm super grateful that you chose to do one of them with us. For people listening to this, whether they're an entrepreneur and they just want to follow you because you're obviously crushing it, or maybe it's somebody who heard about that online thing and they're like, hey, I want to make some money online. What's the best way people can get in touch with you, follow you, learn a little bit more about you?
I would say Instagram is the best way. Just go to Instagram, type Bashar Jigetu. Make sure when you type that name, there's going to be probably 12 different accounts because there's a bunch of people faking my name out there. We have 2.6 million followers, so you're not going to miss it. Make sure you follow that account, but follow us on Instagram. Check out the information there and go from there.
Beautiful. And we'll drop it in the show notes down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
So this is pretty much how we generate organically $400,000 plus a month from social media without being an influencer. Step number 1, use the right platform. When it comes to social media, when you're trying to grow your business, it all comes down to the right platform. Step number 2. So step number 2 was to actually treat it like a business. Number 3, leverage technology. I think it was Tim Ferriss who originally came up with the concept. Eliminate, automate, delegate. Delegate's the 3rd thing you should do.